Welcome back. If you caught our first episode with Spain expert Abby Gray, you know that she's spent decades guiding people to travel in a way that's slow, connected, and truly meaningful. Today, we're going to dive into what really matters, the kind of travel that leaves you changed, not just entertained. It's about presence, connections, and the moments that stick with you and your family long after you've come home. So, if you're curious how the lessons from travel can show up in your everyday life, this episode is for you. Abby, welcome back. I have to admit, after our last conversation, I immediately walked into my husband's office and I was like, "We're going to Valencia." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes, it's great. You'll love it. I promise. Like, don't worry." And he was like, "Okay,"
No
but
follow-up questions.
none needed. And I've watched a million YouTube episodes on Valencia. You are right. Your son was right.
Okay,
I loved it. And I
that's
told
awesome.
my son, I was like, "Yeah, you could take a tennis class there." And he was like, "Mom, I don't play tennis."
That's good. There's a lot of other stuff to do.
Right?
Oh, Valencia is dreamy. It's so
Oh,
dreamy.
I love that. And what I thought we would talk about today, what I got out of our first conversation together was the human connection that I feel like we really need in this space, in travel in particular. So,
Agree.
Americans get such an abbreviated vacation time. It is so expensive to travel. And it would feel like such a wasted opportunity to just sort of plug in what I wanted to do into Chat GPT and have it spit out an itinerary that wasn't personalized to Virginia and her children and our goals. And I loved how in our first conversation, I really got the feeling from you that this is your passion in helping people and combining your experience and meeting with folks. So I wanted to continue a little bit and talk us through just that first sort of client meeting. What are you getting out of your conversation with my family, my
Hmm.
kids? What are some of the things that we should be prepared to talk to you about? And then we'll get into maybe some client feedback next.
Okay, perfect. I love that we're starting with the discovery call because I I offer that because it's what I'd want. I would want an opportunity to have a little face to face with someone that I might be hiring before I commit to anything. But also, I want to get to know them. Well, I like working with this person. Can I talk to them? Do I feel comfortable? Um, and and then we talk. We sort of talk about like, what do you already know about your trip? Do you already know anything? And it is okay to come and be like, we want to go to Spain, but we don't even know where to start. You can start from zero with me. If you have the interest in traveling to Spain, we can work from there. But it really is important because my whole approach is very personalized, very much about the individual traveler or group. And that is why I need to talk to people. I can't, you can give me some basics, but I still have a lot of questions. I care very much about the details of, what comfort, what travel experience do you have? How have you come to the decision to travel to Spain? Do you have any idea where you want to go in Spain and why did you come up with that? I will not tell you you're wrong, um, but I will help either hone in on what you want or offer suggestions. And I don't do I mean, I won't give formal, recommendations or real feedback, but we can have a conversation. I have helped several people that just needed to clarify something. And I was happy to meet with them and they did not, there's no obligation. I really enjoy making somebody feel less overwhelmed and stressed. And so if you're like, I just need to talk to a human who knows stuff, we'll start with it. But it's only a 30-minute call. So, but I actually like talking to the kids and getting a sense of what's of interest to them because I don't want to give you a our just your average basic itinerary. Now there are things to be fair, there are some first couple day things that are I would recommend to most people. But maybe you're somebody who doesn't have like solid mobility, and so maybe walking is more difficult. I would suggest things in a different order, or just a different approach. So I do really need to talk to, and sometimes there are follow-up conversations once we started working together because I, you know, you, clients have questions. I'm the queen of having a thought in the middle of the night that I wish I could ask somebody. And I want to be available for people. So once we get past the discovery call where we've worked out what's your goal? What's your motivation? How did you come to Spain? Like, what made you want to go to Spain? What do you know already? What do you think you're going to find there? And let's make sure you're not going to go and be disappointed um, by your choices.
Yeah. I mentioned before we started recording that we had a trip planned earlier this year before my mom got sick. And in my mind, I had planned what I thought was a great trip to Spain. We were going to go to Barcelona and Blanes and, rent a house and drive this car around. And it sounded magical. And now, after even just one conversation with you, I'm like, there are some fatal flaws, I think, in that trip planning. And part of the joy for me is the planning of the travel, right? I probably have a dozen trips that I could push play on right now.
I love planning travel. I just love
Yeah,
it. But
but
I
I'm
need
not the
someone like
expert.
me. Right.
Yes.
But I want someone like me for each destination. And I don't really see that so much out there. On Instagram, you can start searching, but that's a tricky one. I want a me who can give me little details about why I'm choosing different neighborhoods to stay in. What's the vibe? And why would I want to be here instead of there? And I'm at 51. Why would I want to stay here instead of there? Because there are different goals. It's
Yeah,
different things I'm hoping to experience. So you do need a human. You need a human that knows stuff
right.
and will get to know you so that they're giving you suggestions, recommendations, and support that is what you need, not what your average person needs.
Right. I think too, like I have friends who recently did a Camino, and that was one of the questions I
Mhm.
had for you today was, have you ever done a Camino? And one of the learning opportunities my friend came back was, this trip was good for me, but you don't travel like me. So if I were to ever do it with you, and it was astonishing to me the breadth of travel opportunities just in doing a Camino from Portugal to the northern part of Spain. There must have been 200 companies she could have chosen from. It was the level of, accommodations and baggage transfers. And I was
Right,
like,
right.
you needed my friend to help you out because it's so much.
There's so much. And there's actually multiple caminos. Like
Yes.
there isn't just one. There are multiple ways you can do it and end up there. And you can do it very primitively and you can do it with in luxury, basically. I mean, it's really it can be tailored
Yeah.
to each person and their comfort with walking, or sleeping, in hostels or in on church floors, or
Yes.
whatever. Right.
Yes. So,
Hmm.
so different. So let's talk a little bit about client experiences. So you meet with clients, they take their trip. So now they've come home.
Hmm.
What do people most often tell you when they get back after you've helped them plan this amazing, incredible trip to Spain?
Well, I think that, well, I have reviews and I have lots of client feedback that supports this, but I think they felt much more confident.
Yeah.
They feel like they weren't winging it. They weren't guessing that they had either support, they had backup for what they had chosen to do, or they had guidance as to making adaptations, and that they just felt like um, they had a partner, they had a friend, they had somebody who was available, who was like there if they needed them. So they weren't sort of on their own. Once they booked things, it wasn't over. I'm available. Uh, my clients can ask me questions the day they're traveling, and I check in with people while they're traveling. And then when they come home, we usually do a follow up and talk. But basically, it's just they felt so much more comfortable and confident about being there and how things kind of work.
I love that. And has anybody ever come back and said, I did this to Spain. I thought I was only going to go there once. I want you to help me plan my next trip and let's go someplace else. Because we talked about last time, Spain is like three countries in one or four countries in one.
Yeah, it
Do
really
people
is.
come back convinced this is their one trip, right? And then they're like, I want to go back again.
Yes, I think every person I've worked with in 2 years, every single client has indicated that they absolutely want to go back, and it was wonderful and definitely surpassed their original thoughts. Like that, they thought they'd like it, but they just didn't know that they would love it so much. And then a lot of people want to go to different regions when they go back. So I think I actually can't think of a single client that I've worked with that that they were like, that was great. Thank you for your help. We have no intention of going back. I don't think there's been a single one. I don't think so.
I
That's a
love
great
that.
question. I love that question. That's true. And I was like, that's something that made me so happy. They had a positive experience. Everything isn't perfect in anyone's travel ever. And if
Right.
you were following me this summer, you know that I had some stumbles. Just things did not go perfectly, and I was like, this is really frustrating. And I it kind of shook me a minute. I'm like, no, I have to tell everybody, like, things did not go perfectly, Parking in parking garages in Tosa de Mar is not a joke. They're very small parking garages, FYI. So I I'm still a little traumatized from that experience, but even if there were bumps along the way or things that didn't go perfectly, people were like the overall experience and the overall culture and just the way things work, just people are interested in going back and doing more eventually at some point in the future.
I love that. Do you find that based on what they book through you or what you help them with,
Mhm.
does their next trip, do they get like a little more adventurous? Like maybe the first trip, I have to be in a hotel, I need that. And then maybe they sort of branch out, like I'd try an apart hotel or I'd try, an Airbnb or something along those lines. Does it give it more confident? Like, did they become a more confident traveler?
I would imagine, I mean, so far I haven't had any groups that were going to completely derail from their just original feeling for travel. But I think once you go there once, you can see how other things might work. For example, I'm eventually in the next couple weeks, we're going to have a post out about staying in a parador, which is something that most people don't know about. It is definitely usually a higher scale like stay, but they are historic buildings. Often they could be a castle, it could be, but that's now a hotel basically.
Oh,
Some are really nice, some are nice, but not like, luxury hotels, but they are in smaller towns. And it's definitely a different way of doing things. And a lot of people don't even know they exist as an option. So if you've done some of the main things, you're like, all right, I want to go back. I love the vibe. I love the way of life, but now I want to go to some of the smaller towns. I want to do more rural stuff, maybe more nature focused things. Something that they people don't know on their first round because it's not typical. Like you're not going to find them in the big cities. It's definitely more of a being in the country or being in small towns thing. But that's something that people are like, oh, my in-laws, for example, they stayed in, I believe, a couple of them years ago when they went, and they absolutely loved it. But it's off most people's radar
well,
as
now
an
it's on
option.
it's on all of our radar now. I love
Yeah, I
the
hope so.
I
Yeah,
love this sneak peek. Will you be going to experience that just so you can give people an honest review? I feel like you need to.
I have not done it yet. I have because my whole life traveling, at least in those kinds of situations, really had been with students, and it was very locked in. And so the last few years, I have had more opportunities to do my own research and do things in much more of a small group, couple, solo traveler, small family kind of way. So I have not had an opportunity, but I have friends who have stayed in them. I have good contacts in Spain that have stayed in quite a few of them and have honest reviews. So thankfully I have, I have backup.
Yeah. But I think again, just the depth of your experience. Number one, that that's exists, which,
Yes.
now my Instagram feed is full of Spain and I've not seen that come up once. My
Right. It's an
algorithm.
underknown. It's not known. It's not
Yeah.
known. Mhm.
But I do think you listening to that client experience, those goals, that could be something you suggest. And again, you have those
Yeah.
contacts because I think we've all seen, the listing online and thought, but does it really look that way?
Hmm.
And I
Right.
think like what's the neighborhood look like? What am I going, having those connections is to me, it's something that, Chat GPT can never replace is your knowledge and expertise. I love that.
So can I chat for a
Yeah.
second about the chat? So we were talking a little before we started recording, um, about Chat GPT and travel planning because a lot of people are using it, and I understand it seems pretty straightforward. It seems like it's based on, what you're going to find on Google, but it is missing a human element by a lot. Um, and in essence, it's really just, it is a computer. And so um, I did an experiment the other day where I just wanted to see based on what would ChatGPT say if I told it that I wanted a 1 day itinerary for a family with small children and this 1 day. So as far as ChatGPT is concerned, this family is in Barcelona for 1 day. And the stuff it gave me isn't wrong, but it
Hmm.
is absolutely not what I would tell a family to do with 1 day in Barcelona. Partly because you don't need to take them to the aquarium or to the zoo because those exist probably where you live, but also Spain is kid friendly. Spain is meant for kids, like the whole country. You don't have to go and find those. You can do simple things and regular daily life things, and it is absolutely fantastic for kids. So I would say I saw that and I was like, well, people would end up doing a bunch of things they don't need to do that have nothing to do with Spanish culture, nothing to do with being really, soaking up what's amazing about Spain because ChatGPT was like, this is the stuff that you should do because you have kids, not
Right.
because, right. So I was like, that is a perfect example of why you need me.
Yes.
You definitely need me for this. To
And
work to like weed through all that. Is any
yeah,
of this relevant? Would I do it in that order? Yeah,
it's like it gave you a clinical explanation of how to travel, very sterile, in my
very steady.
opinion.
Yes,
And
that's a good description.
we're like I said, we're spending all this time, we're spending a lot of money. I want to get out of it what I want to, right? And not that there won't be
Hmm.
pitfalls or, everyone
No,
kind
of
of has those
course.
highs and
Right.
lows, but I'm with you. If it told me to go to the aquarium, I would be like, "Oh,
I
okay."
guess. Is there
I don't,
something special about the aquarium? No,
right?
no, there's not. I'm sorry to say. Now in Valencia, maybe more because but even then, we have no offense. I mean, I love Spain to my core, but the US has some really great zoos and aquariums. You don't necessarily need to go to Spain to see that. There are plenty of other things that you can't find where you're from that are spectacular in Spain and great for your kids
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
going to those things. Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your trips with your students. So, I was thinking about when you talked about, the kids had always spent this time on this bus and you really reimagined your student trip. And, my daughter went on like the eighth grade DC trip and she will say she had a great time, but she spent a lot of time on a bus to see the nation's
Yeah.
capital, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about what you hear in this reimagined trip you're taking your students on. What do you hear from them in the moment now that's different than when they were on the bus tour, right? So how
Yes,
does
that's
this
a great
change
question.
them?
Well, they have to use their Spanish. They have to use survivals. They have to make things work with the Spanish that they have. Um, they are learn. It's very practical practice. What they do is so the way I set it up is that first night we arrive in Madrid, they stay in a hotel with me, and then that first day I can teach them about the city and teach them about how the metro works and the subway and just some basic things so they can kind of acclimate a little with me. The next day they go to their homestays, which are organized through a school that I work with there.
Oh,
And they are, I have them go in pairs. So partly because to me, this is baby immersion. This is like just dipping your toes in. This is, you know, I want them to have somebody to work with, but they have to speak in Spanish with the family. If there are kids, every situation is a little different. And then they stay with that family for a week and then they attend classes, language classes that are all in Spanish, that are level appropriate for my students, but the school works with us on that. And so they get several hours of class that I get to help. We decide together what I want them to be working with. And so I want them doing real life daily things like going to the supermarket, family vocab, things we've done, but in a much different way. I mean, doing it in the culture in the community is very different than a textbook, as we know. So they do that. So we do that for a week, and then we go on a train to Barcelona. The first night in Barcelona, they stay in a hotel. We acclimate. The next day, they go off to their families and do classes in Barcelona. Same thing. So it's mini immersion. It's a baby immersion. um, they they aren't coming back fluent. I'm not going to lie to anybody. This is just getting a feel for how this works, and they can tell that it already works. They come back with much more like the ability to understand, but they also have the ability to maneuver through a city because they aren't, I'm not with them every second. I'm the base. I am checking in with them constantly. We will go to a neighborhood and then they have free time to explore. They can't explore by themselves ever, but they have to problem solve. If they went the wrong way on the metro, they got to figure it out. So where the other trips were good in their own way, we saw lots of things. We had lots of guided tours, lots of wonderful activities. No hate for that, but everything was done for them. They were just being shuttled to the next activity. And this way they are more independent and they have more autonomy. They have to they have to function, they have to problem solve, and often in the other language, in Spanish. So uh, one of my favorite things in the last few years since I've done this is that I have so many kids from each of the groups that have gone that have already found ways back. They've already gone back for different reasons. A lot of them are now in college and they've gone back already, maybe spring break. Maybe they've already decided to take a semester abroad, which is like the best compliment about their experience.
Gosh, it sounds like you helped them switch from like these tours where they were like tourists
Yes.
to this cultural experience that as adults, that's exactly what we want to get out of travel usually is I want a
Yeah.
cultural experience, right? I want
Right.
immersion. I want to
Yes.
go to the grocery store like we talked about. I
Yes.
love that and that it opens and broadens their horizons. Have you
Yes.
ever have kids who have like never flown on a plane before or never traveled?
Yes.
And what's that?
Yes.
I can't imagine the joy of watching a child go through or a teenager go through all of it.
Yes. Um, I have had well, I've had a range over the years. I've had kids who have traveled extensively, um, and are have just that's just they've grown up traveling, and I've got kids who've never left the state. So I think, I mean, I genuinely believe that it is very hard to travel and not be affected by it positively, frankly. I mean, no matter what, you're like, the world is big.
Yeah.
The world is much bigger than my little bubble. Wherever your bubble is, the world is big. And there are lots of people living lives there, in ways that are maybe not exactly the same as how you live. Language is different, but even customs and, cultural variations are even sometimes, even we think Europe is kind of the same. There are a lot of differences, right? Like, um, some cultures are more obviously unique or varied from our or your home culture, but I think having an opportunity to see that the world is bigger than maybe you realized. And the reality is there are lots of different kinds of foods. There are lots of different ways of dressing. We just, people do things differently in other places. And that is not wrong. It's just different.
Yeah. When we traveled internationally with my kids for the first time, I was like, there's no ranch, there's no pizza, there's no chicken nuggets. And we literally walked out of the Louvre and there's McDonald's. And my kids were like, there's no chicken nuggets. And I was like, they're French, they're different. But it's like,
Can I talk about this for a second?
yeah,
I want to take a minute and talk about McDonald's. I think you might be surprised by what I'm about to say. I want to give everybody all of the tools so that they can feel comfortable and have some awareness before they go. So they're not like, oh, I don't even know what any of this food is, or I don't know how to order a coffee, or why are the beers so small? I want you to understand some of this stuff ahead of time. But it is not giving up
yeah,
or um or being lazy or not being adventurous to dip into a McDonald's while you're there. Um, I actually encourage my kids to do it at least once while they're there because it is different and it's interesting to me. I'm like, go to McDonald's. I mean, don't only go to McDonald's, but go to McDonald's. Like, go see, what the things are called that you're familiar with. Go see things taste a little different. The ingredients are different. Frankly, it's a lot healthier. I mean, it's
right.
still not healthy, sure, but the McDonald's in Spain is different than the McDonald's in the US by a significant. It looks basically the same, but it's just really I think it's it's something interesting to observe culturally. And so I actually I don't think it's a failing for people to sit in a McDonald's. And frankly, the McDonald's are run really beautifully there. They are run so well. They're very clean. The people are working hard. I mean, they are hustling.
Yeah.
So just that's
They're
my 2 cents. I just wanted to say no hate for going to McDonald's while you're in Spain.
And I think too, like we even went into a Starbucks, as you mentioned, they are very different. They serve different food, it's
Yeah.
often better. And I love that you can have that comparison. And I
Yeah.
think helping kids adjust, to those situations, that's also part of the navigation, right? So
Mhm.
I love that. Did your students struggle? Maybe technology isn't as accessible, maybe the Wi-Fi isn't as good. Like, do your teenagers ever come back and maybe have a different view on how they use technology kind of in their day-to-day lives? Is it different in Spain?
Um, it so the one thing that's a little different, unfortunately, I think it's seeping out everywhere, is that I would say people are still more present in situations or settings. Like if you see people who are out, everyone's not on their phones. Most people are their phone's not anywhere near them, and kids aren't running around on their phones. It's definitely not. I mean, it's not like in the U.S. Um, I hope that doesn't go away, and I do think that you know the kids when they come back there, I do think they recognize that they see that. So I don't know how well it affects them or how long term it is, but it is an interesting thing that when people sit down to have a snack together or go out and have a cafe or whatever, everybody's not like on their phones, just like having you're like, oh, we're together, but we're not really talking to each other. Um, and I think I do feel like a lot of students have mentioned that over the last couple of years, like, yeah, people are not on their phones as much. People are still on their phones plenty. I don't want to, but
Not, maybe it's not at the forefront of their daily activities, right?
right. Now, I will say it's crazy to me to think about the technology that my students can use or I can use now that didn't exist 30 plus years ago when I was living in Spain, my first time when I was 20, and there we used a payphone and email barely existed. We had to go across campus to a library where there was like a couple computers to access our email, and we only could check it like once a week. I mean, to now where I mean we had to use real maps like in the olden days, and my parents in the US had no idea where I was in the middle of the night wandering the streets of Madrid. I mean, it's very interesting how much that has changed. So I do love that my phone, I can do so many things with my phone. But yeah, the technology has changed significantly. It's kind of fun.
Love that. Let's talk about maybe one thing that people are most shocked about when they come back from Spain. Like, what surprises them the most? Is it maybe the food? Is it the siesta? Is it eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night? These are all things that I've seen like you post about on your Instagram. But like, what's the number one thing that an American comes back and was like, I was so shocked?
I I would say it's the slowing down,
Yeah.
it's the taking the time that, and then yes, the eating schedule. The eating schedule is one that I hear about that where people are nervous about before they go, but also was kind of for some people it is much harder to adapt to that than others. And here's the thing: you can find food at any time. Most places you're going, there's going to be food available all day somehow, right? Um, so don't worry. But I would say it'd be the schedule and the eating schedule is one that is kind of the hardest to decide if that is comfortable for them.
Is your advice to people like try to navigate that, try to, you know, mix into the eating schedule, like
Mhm.
just do your best to adapt. That's the word I'm trying to come up with.
That's my advice for sure. Don't fight it, join it if you can. And frankly, you can snack as much as you need to so that in your first day, like when you're arriving and you're jet lagged and eat, sit, walk, and you're just getting through the first day to try to stay up and get on the schedule. But, I don't think you don't have to be hard and fast and be like, I can't eat anything until 2 o'clock because that is lunch. No, you can have a snack and then try to go to a place around, if you're holding fast to I eat lunch at noon and I eat dinner at 5 or 6, it's going to be trickier. And it's just you're missing out on the rhythm.
How do you help your students like when they're feeling unfamiliar or uncomfortable, right? How do you help them, or even clients? What are some
Mhm.
tips that you'd give for people to navigating a culture or a country they've never been to from someone who's been there so many times and is arguably very comfortable there?
So, I mean, one of the best things you can do is have a little awareness before you go, and go not assuming that it is going to be the same as you're used to. Even subtleties are sometimes the most jarring, or in my opinion, the people are most thrown off by little things that are different, not big things. Um, and so one of the things when you work with me, I have resources that I'll give you that sort of have a couple, kind of a list, or kind of a lot of the things that you want to be aware of. But I would say that we all change is hard for any of us, and doing things in a way that is not typical for us is for most people is it can be a little bit hard, and sometimes I'll have people who feel not who are just very they acclimate, roll with it. Um, and if you can do that, that's going to make it much more comfortable. But I think if you knowing a lot of the stuff, I mean, we talk about like with my students and my own family, there are things that we talk about in anticipation of going instead of, oh, I forgot to tell you this is how this works. We prepare ahead of time. So you don't have to do a ton of work, but there are things you want to have in the back of your mind so that you're not thrown off, because that's what gets people, that's what stresses people out and frustrates people, is when they didn't know and they don't understand. And if you don't speak the language, you've got maybe somebody who's like trying to tell you something and explain it. um yeah, I was at a restaurant a couple weeks ago, and I was there at the earlier time, but I was just going to sit and have a glass of wine and catch up on some things. And it's a place I've been. It's one of my favorite little Italian places in Barcelona. And um, there were two adults that had sat down and they were ready. This was like at I want to say 6. They were or 5:45, and they wanted to order pizza. And it's fresh made. I mean, it's freshly made Italian pizza. These everybody there is from Italy, and they were trying to explain to them that the ovens weren't on yet. Like the afternoon is time for people to like sometimes go rest, and they turn like everything stops for a little bit. So yeah, you can order a pizza, but it's going to take longer, and you got to wait for the guy to come back from his break and then fire it up. And these people were kind of upset at first. They're like, "Well, you're an Italian place, and you can't serve pizza right now." And I was like, "Okay, hold on, don't be rude."
Right.
And I tried to nicely explain to them, and they calmed down. Then once they knew, they were, oh, okay. And I talked to them and I said, look, this is normal. They're not blowing you off at all. This is normal. And the food is really good here, but they don't real this is the timing is different. And so that's just how it is. They're a wonderful restaurant. Like, do not be mad at them. This is just how it works. It's different than what you're used to.
I think it's those small differences, though, like afterward, you're like, wow, that was a bigger difference maybe than you had anticipated.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
again, you being there, having that experience, now it's like in the back of your mind to relay that to clients, right? Like, don't, hey, just a little heads up. Talking about food, what
I
is
love talking
one
about food.
meal? I know, me too.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Oh, yay. Okay, so one meal that you have to eat every time you go. So, Spanish food, I think you talk a lot about it on your Instagram, tapas, or I've seen you maybe talk about paella, or we all know that paella is, a
It's a
regional
thing. It's a
dish.
thing.
Yes.
Yes. Hmm.
So, what's one meal that you're like, when I go, I must?
Okay. So I have things that like when I'm in certain places, I I just want to go to this place and have this thing. And there are a lot of those for me in different places. I love tapas as a concept because I don't like to commit to one dish. And so what I love about that is it's my favorite way to eat, which is like a little bit of everybody's food. That's how I want my whole life to be. I don't want this food only. I want your food and their food, and it's a way to have lots of little things And it's about socializing too. So I really like that aspect. But even if you're alone, you can order a couple tapas and they have different, you know, quantity. You don't have to buy a vat of food, and even portion sizes are much more manageable
Right.
and realistic and healthy. And so you can have lots of flavors. You can have lots of things. So I'd say, but when I'm so in Madrid, there's a pastry shop that I love that if I don't go there, I feel like I've missed something. If I don't stop
Oh,
by there, I feel like and sometimes I go multiple times. And it's very old. It's called La Mallorquina, and it's right on the Puerta del Sol, like right in there. And it is the original. And there are they have other locations. They've grown, but it's just an old-fashioned bakery. And a lot of people know about it now. I like it, but you have to know before you go that the wait staff is brusque. I mean, it's just different. And they are because they are like they have so many people that want to go. They're not trying to once you're in, they're not going to kick you out, but sit down. Do you know what you want? You know? But I love their coffee and I love their pastries. And one in particular, it's a Napolitano con crema, which is a cream-filled pastry. And
ooh,
I could eat it every day.
I
It's
love
so good. Now
that.
in Barcelona, I have a different one, like wildly different. In Barcelona, it's my favorite place in the world. I post about it all the time. I want them to know me. I want them to be like, Abby's here. Woo! And they smile. They know that I exist, but like I don't think they know I do any of this. They just know I come in and I'm just like, I love it here so much. It's this teeny tiny place. They have four tapas.
Oh,
It's the same thing they've been doing since I think 1950 something. I don't know. It's this tiny little place. It's very old school and it is the best. It's called Bar La Plata, but I talk about it all the time. But there they have pescadito frito, which is like little fried fish and a vermouth. And I feel peace when that's what I like. That's the first thing I have to do.
I
So,
love that.
so weird things like pastries and fish. I don't know. They don't go together. Luckily, they're in different cities.
That's so when you work with clients, do you give them like a restaurant guide or how does that work? Because I think food, as we have talked about a lot, could be
Mhm.
a challenge for people. So
Yes, because
what do you
yes.
do? What do you do to help people with food?
So because I'm a teacher at heart, I want you to have all the resource. I want you to have resources that you could like look at. Now, obviously, there's all kinds of translators and things like that. So, but if you're gonna try to be brave and veer off path and just go to a traditional old school bar, restaurant, whatever, um, where there's no menus with pictures and everything's not translated 45 ways. Um, I have I have a tapas guide that explains what these are in English, and I have that I can share with people. That I have a language resource that has basic language, basic phrases and things like that for certain situations. It's just very much like a teacher handout. But for each if you're it depends on how much support you've hired me for. But if you are going to Barcelona and Valencia, let's say, I have restaurant guides. I have links to a bunch of restaurants that I do recommend. There are plenty of others. I update it periodically. It's not fancy. These are just like things to try, not in order of which one's best. Some are more expensive. You have to do a little, but these are places that I think are worthwhile, decent. I also have that for hotels, accommodations, things like that for most destinations. Suggestions for guides, suggestions for must see visits, even city or destination basics like the metro or how this works with the bus system. Is there a subway? Is this a walkable city? Things like that. What to do in an emergency. So I have a lot of guides or basic things that I share with my clients for different destinations, depending on how much they want help.
Yeah, that to me, again, I'm repeating myself, but invaluable, this resource, right? Like, there's no way that even if you love to travel plan, there's 0 out of 0 chance that I would ever have any of those resources, right? I don't have a favorite restaurant. I don't know about the pastry. I do now. But, and if I
Right.
ever make it to your favorite place in Barcelona, I'm going to be like, Abby sent me. Do you know her?
This is
Like,
her. This is what she looks like. Yeah. She sent me. I mean, I love them so much and they don't even know.
Well, they will. They do now, right?
I talk about them all the time. I've been sending people to this particular place in Barcelona for years since I discovered them on a Devour tour, by the way. I discovered this restaurant because I had signed up years before I ever started travel consulting for Spain. I discovered some of my favorite places because of Devour tours. Their food tours are phenomenal. I learned so much from them.
Food tours are fun too,
And this
for
this
all
company,
ages.
agree. This company does it does it so well. And I have sent people to them for years, long before I became a travel consultant. And not a single person has regretted it. And not a single person wasn't just blown away by how wonderful it was.
Oh,
This company is fantastic.
I love
And I'm
that.
not getting paid to say that. I just
Yeah.
love them.
Which I think, again, we
Yeah.
just share things we like, right? That's what
Yep,
we do.
exactly. I want you to have the right information. I don't want you to go over there and hate it, but I also don't want you to go over there and be mad about stuff that maybe you don't need to be mad about because just know before you go, right?
Right?
Have some information.
Helpful tips.
Yep.
So I have two questions before we wrap up because I
Okay.
do feel like we could talk about this
I feel like you
forever.
and I could talk for days. You're so fun to talk to. I
Oh,
love your questions.
likewise. This is the beauty of people connecting through Instagram, and
Agree.
there's
Agree.
no replacement for it.
The internet can
Um,
be a terrible place, but this is the good part. This
yeah,
is the good part.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So if your clients and students were sitting here instead of you, what do you think
Yeah.
they would want our listeners to understand about traveling, living differently, and the services that you provide them, the gift that you give them of this knowledge?
Well, that I love that. I think I think that most of them would say that it made them feel better having me around, like having me, but having the ability to go be brave, but having me as backup. And also, I think it's very clear how much I love this place, this country, and the people and the culture and the language. I love all of it. Like it's to me, it's home, and I love it so much. And I think that translates not now. Spain is not for everybody. It's not going to be everyone's vibe. That's okay. Other places aren't really my vibe. That's fine. But I think my students would say, even I mean, students that are now fully grown ups had their own kids who I took when I was 25, and I took middle schoolers for years, by the way. I took middle schoolers
Oh
for
my.
2 week trips. Yes, crazy. Um, that it changed them. They are
Yeah.
all impacted by it, but I think part of it's because I'm not just going through motions. I love it. And I think that comes through when we're walking. I'm like, you guys were here. I mean, I'm like a little kid. I'm like a golden retriever, all over the place. And I think that makes it, I don't know, I think there's a little more, you can relax a little and you're not, I mean, so nervous about everything. You can like, someone's got this. I can ask questions. Someone knows, and I don't have to embarrass, if I don't know how to say it in Spanish, I've got somebody I can talk to.
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to feel like we don't have to be the expert in everything.
Yeah,
And
100%.
if you're listening to this and feeling like I do, like you just removed 11 mental load checklist items from me about this part of travel planning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's what I
such a
want.
relief. Yeah.
And when I planned a trip last or 2 summers ago for my family to places that I've been but don't know as well, and I learned some things. I made some mistakes. I had the internet. I had Google. I did tons of research because I love diving in. I love researching, but I still don't know anything, and the internet can't tell you everything. And so luckily for one thing, trying to figure out what was the best way to rent a car in France to do Normandy and Mont Saint Michel. And luckily my French teacher that I work with, she's traveled there millions of times with her students for years, and she gave me phenomenal
Yeah.
advice. Is basically the me of that experience where I was like, thank you. And it was so smooth. And
Nice.
what she told us to do, I didn't get from the internet.
Right. You couldn't.
So
It's
I
that
need someone
experience.
like me for every other destination.
Yeah, I do too, by the way. So let
Yeah,
me know if you find them.
I know, right?
My last question is if someone's listening and they're feeling like this conversation has given me that confidence to maybe slow down or travel differently, right? Think
Yeah.
outside of the Google search. what would be the first step that you would invite them to take specifically with reaching out to you?
So it's very easy. If they follow me on Instagram, that's easy. My website is, you can contact me easily through either of those channels. You can DM me, or you can go straight to setting up a discovery call. So the discovery call is easy to schedule, like super easy. It's free and there's zero obligation. So that's where you can start. Or if you're like, okay, it sounds like Spain might be of interest. Before I commit to anything, do a quick, I know we just talked about not Googling, but or relying on Google only or ChatGPT to tell you what to do. Just do it. Like, what? Why Spain? Go look it up. Go look up pictures. Does it look like something that looks interesting to you? Go figure out why. And then but I can talk you through any of it. We can start from the beginning, and there's no obligation, which I really wanted to offer. I have zero regrets. I love offering a free discovery call. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to know things before they decide to hire me.
And I feel like your Instagram is a great resource because it is not this perfectly curated,
No, I'm a human. I'm a normal human. I have two
yeah,
kids. I have another job. I've learned a lot about the Instagram. I mean, I know you and I have been supporting each other for a long time. I've learned a lot.
yeah.
I've come a long way. I'm always trying to figure out like what is going to best serve them. What do they need to know? What will help them? What's maybe a little funny, maybe sometimes frustrating. The reality is it's not perfect. And yes, my Instagram is not aesthetic. And if you don't understand, if you don't know where to find, just message me. I will help you.
Yeah. And I think too, like, what are like three of your reels that people could easily find that would give them like your vibe? In my mind, the one that stands out to me, I don't even know how long you did this, but it was people putting their feet in a fountain. Do you remember
Oh,
that?
that was the summer. Oh my gosh. That was
Why do
one
I
of my
remember that? Like, and of course, you recently did one about all the icks, right? But I'm telling you, when I think of, first of all, you have these great photos, right? I love it.
oh
I loved your
thanks.
student travels, but in my
Thank
mind,
you.
I see that fountain.
So that was one of my friends who lives in Barcelona was like, you need to talk about this. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do. And so I'm like, guys, and usually I'm less aggressive, but I'm like, come on. I mean, it blows me away when people travel anywhere and have bad manners.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. It's okay to not know things.
right.
It is not okay to act like where you're traveling, again, regardless of destination, is a playground or an amusement park. It isn't. It's where people live. It is where people are raising children, going to work, have lives. That's their home. And to act like it's just your playground because I cannot believe. And so, yes, I get judgy on that. Otherwise, I try not to be judgmental. Like I try to,
But that's reality, right? And that's what I
right. So
think,
I'm like,
like,
come on, people, do
yeah,
better. This is crazy. This is you're not allowed. There are signs that say don't get in the fountain, but also don't get in the fountain.
right. But
What are you
that's like
doing?
your Instagram is not just pretty photos and
Correct.
hire
Oh,
me.
right.
It
Mm-mm.
is so realistic,
Thank
real
you.
practical.
I've tried very hard. As the
Yeah.
teacher, I want you to, if you don't hire me, that's okay. Like listen to,
Yeah.
watch some of the reels, check out some of these posts, save them, take them with you because I've tried to touch on some of the things that over the years have been significantly helpful to people.
I have loved our conversation so
Me too.
much. I
Thank
think
you.
I think it will give listeners just a different perspective, like I said many times, just a different perspective on how to approach travel, that having, someone who's been there, has decades of experience is something you can't replace no matter how confident you feel, especially if you're going someplace for the first time or the 50th time, right? You probably
And if
learned,
you don't speak the language, that's another layer. Now, even
ah,
if you do speak the language, there are cultural differences. Spanish is spoken in a lot of places that are very different, and people have no idea. It's very different. South America, between all those countries, very different. People just
yeah,
think, oh, it's one place. No, unique places, unique culture, same
right.
language, more or less, but some variations there. So yeah, yeah. There's so much to travel. There's so
Oh,
much to travel, which I love.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know this is in the middle of your day, and I appreciate it and value it so, so much.
Thank you so much. I love everything that you do as well. Thank you so much for talking to me about this and asking these wonderful questions and giving, everybody a chance to hear from me like what it is that I do and why I do it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that. So remind everyone where they can find you on Instagram and your website. It will always be in the show notes, but if you want to give yourself a shout out, that's
So,
good.
sure. So on Instagram, it's at experience.espana because there's no tilde in on the internet, dot Abby. So
Okay.
experienceespana.abby, even though technically it's España, you can't use the enye. And then on my website is www.experience-espana.com.
Love it. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, we will see everyone next time. And thanks for being here.